this is Patti Roberson with PMI Virginia. We're a property management Inc. franchise in Hampton Roads, Virginia. Today I thought I would share with you why it's so important for investors to check the zoning of a building they're buying. And I'll tell you that I've had a couple friends purchase buildings and make huge mistakes. And fortunately for me, I haven't made the mistake myself, but as a real estate investor, the absolute best lessons to learn are those that were made by someone else. So here you go. So I'll give you an example because that's the best way to describe this. Let's say you buy a building that's a duplex and it was built in the 20s. Back in the 20s, the zoning for that area allowed for duplexes. And then along the way, as the city was developed, the city and the residents decided that in this particular neighborhood, there were too many people per square foot, and so they wanted to reduce the number of people. So when they do that, they reduce the zoning, and in this case, they made it a single-family house. So they are trying to reduce the density in a lot of neighborhoods, and especially in Norfolk, one of our cities. And so when that happens, typically any building that was a duplex prior to the zoning changing is now what's called it's on a non-conforming lot. It's a building that is not conforming with the current zoning. In those cases, the city allows the building to be grandfathered as a non-conforming structure as long as the building remains in use as the non-conforming structure. So it has to remain in use as a duplex in this example. Once the building comes out of that non-conforming status for at least 2 years, the building now has to conform to current zoning. And I know in the first example, the first friend of mine who purchased a duplex was intending to rehab it as a duplex and then sell it. And when he went down to get his permits, the permit office told him, you can't keep this a duplex. You have to convert this to a single family home. And he said, why? And they said, because there have not been utilities on in this house. It was an REO, bank-owned property. It had been vacant for a long time. And it was, the city could tell because no utilities had been on, that it had been vacant for at least 2 years. And because of that, it pulled out of the non-conforming allowance and now had to be converted to current zoning, which was a single family home. So the numbers completely changed, and this investor had no choice but to convert it back to a single family home. Second example, another investor, same thing, same city, different neighborhood, purchased a duplex intending on keeping this one as rental property. Same thing happens, goes down to the city, tries to get his permit, and he's told, you can, this is a single family, this is zoned single family. And in this case, this investor swears the house was not ever, utilities were not on. This was owner occupied when he bought it, and the owner was living in one unit, and there was a second unit. That's obviously a duplex. Well, I did some research because that didn't make sense. And because the rule is it has to remain in use, and the only examples I had ever seen was utilities had been turned off. Well, in this case, I found that the owner who sold the loan had a reverse mortgage on it. And so I looked up the rules for reverse mortgage. Sure enough, one of the rules for a reverse mortgage is that no part of the building may be rented. So the homeowner putting the reverse mortgage on the duplex caused it to be now considered single family home status, and because he had refinanced more than 2 years ago, that loan remained intact for more than 2 years. Now the structure was out of duplex, out of the non-conforming status for more than 2 years, so the house had to be converted to single family. So the lesson for you is whenever you're buying a building, always check the current zoning. If your building matches the zoning, you're good. If the zoning is something different than your structure is, it doesn't necessarily mean all bets are off. What it means is you have to do a little bit more research. It's not hard. Just call your city permit office and ask if the building is non-conforming or conforming, and if you would be able to use it for the intended use that you have after you purchase it. And that's something the city permit offices can look up and tell you really quickly. So the lesson for all investors is when you're purchasing a property, confirm your zoning. You'll save yourself a lot of heartache. Just make sure that whatever your intention is of the way you want to use the building, you'll be able to legally use it in that manner with the city. I appreciate you guys watching. This is Patti Roberson with PMI Virginia. Feel free to check out our website at pmivirginia.com. We are a Property Management Inc. franchise here in Hampton Roads, Virginia. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.